Talladega Superspeedway, long known as one of the biggest and baddest tracks on the NASCAR calendar, will today play host to the GreenFlagTV 250 and race number 9 of the TNGG IEL Truck Series. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the show. My name is Ola Rambo alongside Josh Baird. We're bringing you all the action from this live-to-tape coverage of Saturday's race. Josh, it is going to be a fun one. 95 laps, 250 miles. It is the longest race of the season, a true test of endurance and wit here this afternoon.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see these guys out on this track because it's such a big track and it's not very bumpy. Daytona's kind of a little bit more of a bumpy one, and with Talladega, you can get really wide and really close to your opponents. So I expect to see a lot of like 2 wide and maybe even some 3 wide action here tonight.
Of course, when we talk about tracks like Talladega, not only is it a test of endurance in trying to maintain that truck all the way through to the end, but it's also a test of endurance on the mind, because unlike a normal track, you can't really settle into a big rhythm around here. When you're racing just inches apart at 180 miles an hour, it's going to be absolutely crucial to stay on point with that mind all day long, and you have to wonder if fatigue could play a factor in how this race pans out.
Good point you bring up there, Nolan. It's physical fatigue because you really have to hold tight to that wheel to make sure it doesn't drift around into the other trucks. And then mental fatigue because you're constantly strategizing where you need to place your truck on the track to be able to set yourself up for a prime finish, as well as, like you said, with the trucks being so close together, you're just constantly having to be aware of your surroundings. And the moment you lapse that is the moment you're going to bring out the caution.
It'll be interesting to see then how this race is going to pan on out this afternoon, as we'll look to check out the point standings entering racing action this afternoon, where you've got the likes of somebody at least on the top of the boards. I believe that to be Paul Witt that's on the top with 321 points. But of course, you look all the way down through this field. Cody Ricketts, Zane Bailey, Michael Gudger, Scott Rankin, all still tucked up line astern in the points battles. Only 16 separates first from fifth.
Yeah, I can confirm that's Paul Witt in the top spot, and I love how these point standings are staying so tight so far. Race 9 in the season, that really gives you the opportunity for any of these guys to really jump to the top. So I'm hoping with this race tonight, we can see one of these guys finally make that move to be able to get themselves a little bit closer to the top end of the championship.
With all of that said and done, of course, qualifying is currently underway. There are a few trucks currently making their way up and around the racetrack, but for the most part, drivers have already finished up their qualifying laps. The few that we see out on track at the moment taking this extra little moment to practice some pit entries. I think that's a smart call, right? Make sure that you can know how to get down to pit road here at a track like this. There you see Doc Holliday. He's working his way up and around the racetrack, but it does not look like he's going to be able to do too much at that number 46 machine. So I'm anticipating him to just make that run down to pit road and then pull it off the racetrack with just about 60 seconds left in this qualifying effort.
This is a great job by them to get that chance to practice it. You and I have seen so many races where these guys, go into pit lane and it can make or break your race. You're talking, 1 mile per hour over the speed limit could be a race ender for you. And if we expect to go green flag tonight, green flag pit stops are going to be absolutely crucial to being successful in this race.
With a few seconds left, let's take a quick chance to, of course, thank the folks that helped keep the lights on here in the TNGG IL Truck Series. This race tonight brought to you by Network Alliance for Veterans. NAV is a program that informs veterans of programming available and services throughout the Northeast area of Indiana. Network Alliance also looks outside of Indiana for extra benefits and programs, along with benefits for veterans and their families, all while promoting programs on the NAV site, such as Veterans of Foreign Wars, the American Legion, and the Fraternal Order of Eagles. Cecil Ross networks with other organizations such as the Women's Veterans Alliance out of California. And last but certainly not least, the Network Alliance of Veterans YouTube channel contains live stories and podcasts and advertises various events and benefits. Network Alliance of Veterans, a proud sponsor of the TNGG IL Truck Series alongside Admin Box. With all of that said and done, qualified is complete. Let's take a rundown of what your starting grid is going to look like here as we get set to duke it out. 250 miles about to kick off from this absolutely fantastic circuit. Paul Witt starts on the pole with June Duda beside him on the front row. Zane Bailey is down in third with Dale Rapp in fourth. Brendan Gregg is fifth. Scott Rankin is sixth. John Bualda Jr., Brad Slago, Selena Thompson, and Carson Baytall round out the top 10.
Brian McRoberts in 11th, Zachary Groover in 12th, George Rincon in 13th, was Thomas Lane in 14th, Mike Campbell sitting at 15th spot with Jeff Gilmore, Julian Bellew, and Doc Holliday in the 18th position. 19th, we have Robert Amaral and Jordan Jung in 20th.
Anthony Lane starts 21st with Laban Van Leer in 22nd. Brandon Groover is 23rd. Jim Coleman'sberger is at 24th. Noah Swabbert is 25th. Mike Allen and Luigi Gonzalez round out the field. All 27 trucks making the start here this afternoon, as it should be a fun ride with just a few seconds left here before we get qualifying underway. So we've thanked, of course, Network Alliance for Veterans. We'll take a quick step back just to give a quick shout to Adam Box, and we'll be back in a moment with the pace lap. Working the back straightaway with Paul Witt leading the way. It's going to be a very fun and hard-fought drive for all involved this afternoon when we get set to duke it out. It's a long race, too, and, well, I think, Josh, today, it could be one of those races where we see these guys going a little bit cleaner. Remember, no 3 wide allowed until lap 17. Will that make things a little bit more tamer at the start, or could we be seeing that crash before that mark anyway?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really depends on league to league. It depends how comfortable you are with the guys around you. With it being race 9, I think we're gonna expect to see a few more green flag runs out of this crew tonight. There's a handful of guys out there that just can't wait. That, let's say, for instance, they have a bad situation in qualifying that didn't put them where they want, and they want to try and get up there in the front fast. So we'll have to see which group is going to be showing up here tonight as we get ready to get underway here at Talladega.
We're happy that you're joining us up here on what's going to end up being a Tuesday afternoon, but for Saturday night's race on this tape-delayed broadcast. Paul Witt into the Geico Restart Zone. Green flags out. We are racing in the state of Alabama. Luigi Gonzalez starting this race from pit road. You saw him exiting turn 2 way in the back of the field. Looking like it'll be Paul Witt pushed by Zane Bailey, who will lead lap number 1 to green. Jim Duda working the outside with Brendan Gregg down on the bottom. Paul Witt, your leader at the end of lap number 1.
Yeah, interesting call by Luigi. I don't know if that was a penalty that started him from the pits or if he had technical difficulties, but that's going to be a rough race for him because he's got nobody out there to draft him with, so he's going to be a boat anchor out there on the track. And the rest of these guys, though, doing a great job of creating a nice tight formation to allow for them to, get that draft going. As we got a guy dropping back right there. The number 49 is dropping like a rock of Scott Rankin.
Now, typically 3 wide is not allowed on the racetrack, but of course what Scott Rankin is doing here, he wanted to fade to the back of the field. That is acceptable by TNGG standards. You can't try to make a 3 wide pass around the outside, for example. But if you're looking to drop back through the field, that's a good way to do it, right? Just go to the outside, get 3 wide. 3 wide is... there are certain situations where it is acceptable. Obviously, if you're avoiding an incident or if you're dropped back like that, it is totally fine, so long as you make an honest effort to get back to double file as quickly as possible once you're in a safe position.
Yeah, I like that call. It helps prevent people from being overly aggressive outside of the or out of the box for a race and causing cautions early. I also like the call by Rankin there. I've seen a lot of even professional guys that are out there on the track and they'll drop back quite early on because that allows them to stay out of the action. But the problem is with Rankin right now is I think he's actually lost the draft by dropping back. Like, oh nope, never mind. I'd take that back. It was just a bad camera angle at the moment. But as long as he can keep that draft, being in the back is a pretty safe place to be because as they wreck in front of you, hopefully you get the chance to dodge them. But being in the middle there is a little more sketchy because you're probably going to be the guy that's involved in the incident.
He was at risk of losing the draft initially. He dropped back to about 5/10 of a second from the leaders, but when this field made that very subtle checkup in turn 3, because he was flat out and not having to check up, he was able to tag onto the back of that draft and pull up to the rest of the field. That's one thing I love about the trucks for plate racing in comparison to stuff like the Gen 7 stock cars, right? The fact that you're able to recover a little bit easier in the draft. I guarantee you, for stock car racing and the Gen 7 cars, you're not making that recovery. You are dropping back and losing that draft any day of the week if you try that.
Yeah, with those Gen 7 cars, it's so technical, and you know, aero is becoming more and more important with the Gen 7 cars. So having these trucks out there gives a little more opportunity for them to be able to keep that pack nice and tight. And while they're only doing it too wide, that's going to also keep those formations nice and tight. So you can only really move from the top line to the bottom line or the bottom line to the top line, but we probably won't be seeing that too much this early on.
Racing action continues on from the Talladega Superspeedway as Paul Witt, Jim Duda, Zane Bailey, and Dale Rapp are right now the main pushers up in front. Everybody else behind kind of dragging the brake, running half throttle. They're looking to just take it nice and easy, make sure they can last things towards that first pit stop window. There are some pretty heavy fuel restrictions on these trucks, about 55%, which is why lap 17 is marked as the lap where you're allowed to go 3 wide again. Because lap 17, that's about the lap we're expecting to see these guys coming down to pit road for the first time.
It's going to be tough for those guys that are stuck on the outside to be able to find a way down into pit road. So we'll have to see how that strategy plays out for these guys. And hopefully they can keep it green to give them the ability to make it to lap 17 and do a green flag stop. But if not, then it's really going to throw off the leaderboard with caution flag coming out and throw some crazy strategies throughout this race.
Already working lap number 6, about to be up on the lap number 7, so we're looking pretty solid so far. Now we're into the meat of the race, right? This is where everything is just going to be starting to slip a bit further back. Nobody's looking to make these moves just yet. Everybody's kind of running by themselves. The only driver right now that has really kind of fallen out is Luigi Gonzalez in that number 54 Ford F-150. Of course, having to start from pit road, he is hoping for a caution early on to get himself back up to the rest of the field. Otherwise, we can expect him to be losing that lap within about the next 4 or 5 laps or so here.
Yeah, that's the really hard part about being a lone wolf out at Talladega. You just cannot keep the speed that these guys in these giant packs have the ability to keep. So you're ending up just being a victim of being lapped, even though your car is perfectly fine to take around the track.
Turning into lap number 7 as racing action continuing to move steady on. Feel like at this point in time, drivers like Thomas Lane Jr. are starting to consider their moves about where they want to try to make these looks. You can see Thomas Lane Jr. starting to slip a bit further back from that leading pack, right? I mean, he and I think that's Jeff Gilmore right behind him have not been making a lot of moves up to the top. You wonder if maybe Lane is trying to find a hole to get in on the inside line.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, a lot of it's depending on how comfortable you feel on which line you want to pick, and then the other thing is too is just it's a chess game of strategy. Of if you go up to that top line at the right time, they push forward, then you gain a couple spots, then you hop back down as that line falls back. So it's really a huge chess game of trying to figure out when is the opportune time to hop between the 2 lines, and that's how you find your way towards the front at the end of the race.
Well, I mean, you take a look from above, right? There's the outside line will always be the faster of the 2 lines on corner exit because you have a much bigger downhill transition coming off of the banking and onto the flat. But it's also a very risky place to be as Jim Duda going to pull clear from Dale Rapp. Oh never, not quite. Paul Witt gets the nose back in there. While it's the fast with the 2 lanes on corner exit, though, it's also a huge risk to go up there. If a crash happens up front, there's not a lot of place to hide up top. But look down low. Look at all that space where you can run down to the inside. If a crash happens into the inside line, just jerk the wheel hard to the left, get it down below the apron, and you'll be just fine. On the outside, you're kind of hooped.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up. And another thing on the outside line that's almost a perk is you do have that outside line to give you a little bit of wiggle room in that turn when you're pinched down there on the inside of that line, as it looks like Luigi's been caught by the field now, so we'll have to see how he files back through the field. But yeah, when you're stuck on the inside, you really have no room to go because you got the apron to your left and you got that driver really trying to pinch you to the right and create some issues. As looks like Luigi's getting a little tight going through 1 and 2, maybe no contact with the wall, but it's going to be a losing battle for him. We'll see if he can file in here, as he does file in. So great opportunity for him to actually keep in line with the pack and be able to keep up with him, because as soon as the caution comes out, he'll get that lucky dog and be right back on the lead lap.
Really good news for him. Paul Witt, Jim Duda, Zane Bailey, Dale Rapp, all trying to see if they can make a big lunge up and around these corners, as Brendan Gregg and Brad Slagle will get the nose in as well. Thomas Lane Jr. works up to the outside line as well. And right now, there's a lot of trucks that are starting to make those little peaks, and I think we have a lot of people starting to strategize where they want to go. And oh boy, Jim Duda cuts across the nose of Dale Rapp, and he's able to get in line. It's a risky move to do something like that, though, especially when you're approaching a corner. Jim Duda tried to do that as well at Daytona. You want to know how that one ended? It ended up with it getting turned around, spun into the infield, then back of the track, created a big pile up in turn 3.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It gets really tight when you race at these restrictor plate tracks. And I've also seen different strategies too. Sometimes you're that when you're that outside guy, you'll take that second guy with you because he's been a good drafting buddy to get you to the point where you have that gap. But then sometimes that guy will also take advantage of that and then pinch you off and leave you up there hanging high and dry while you're stuck, while he goes ahead and takes that lead away from you. So it really depends where you want to be in the race, but being this early on in the race is probably a good idea for him just to settle in, sit down in first for a little bit, get a few laps led, and get those points while he can get them.
Twelve and a half laps down out of 98. And Paca continues to make that steady march through turn numbers 3 and 4 and back around to the front straightaway. Within 5 laps, we'll be seeing the first trucks coming down the pit road, and look at a huge push from Dale Rapp. Drives to the top, courtesy of Brad Slagle. Will hop to the bottom. Brad Slagle now leads the top, and right now Slagle being pushed by Thomas Lane Jr. up on that outside line. Duda straddling that yellow line as they work their way through turn number 1. Yellow line rule is also in effect. You cannot advance your position below that line. So you got to be very, very careful of that whenever you're trying to flirt with a line like that.
Yeah, good job by Duda. Usually when you get down on that apron like that, it tends to really push that car back up once all 4 tires get settled back on the track. But he made it look pretty easy when he went through that, going through turns 1 and 2. So great job by him, and he'll be able to continue that momentum on the bottom line.
Jeff Gilmore drifting up to the outside, and man, Lane with an aggressive chop to the bottom. Dale Rapp hops back to the outside line to help out Brad Slagle. I think trying to make sure that Slagle doesn't lose too much of that momentum. The 53 of Jim Duda will retake the lead from the bottom side. Starting to see a few more drivers make those aggressive lane changes down to the inside. I mean, you'll take a look down the back straightaway at just how much of the outside line has started the single file out towards the back. This is all in preparation of pit stops within 5 laps.
Yeah, you got to start keeping that in mind, and maybe there's a couple guys in there that may want to do some sort of strategy alteration. I know when there's green flag pit stops and the entire field is down there in pit road, it can get really sketchy. So some people may actually decide to dip off a little early, but you don't want to be dipping off by yourself or you're going to run into a lot of trouble later on.
And no kidding, it can be a very risky factor, and it's been something that's caught out quite a few drivers in the past, pitting by yourself. It is a huge detriment to your race. I've seen quite a few drivers go from leading the race to being laps down because they pitted either by themselves or only with one other truck that they cannot get linked up with, and it kills your race. Pit stops, I think, are the most important at tracks like Daytona and Talladega, where draft is king.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. That's why I was glad to see those guys in qualifying practice those pit stop entries, because that can make or break your race at a place like Talladega. So we'll have to see if some of these guys decide to pull off here in the next couple laps. Sometimes, you know, you have your teammate out there and you decide, hey, let's go together. We're both on the bottom line. Let's get in here a little early so we don't have to be down there among the traffic. And you can get out and get a draft partner by yourself. But so far, nobody's taken the bait on trying to get down there a little early.
Pit window is now open. Tail Rab leading the way from Brad Slagle. As the pack thunders down the back straightaway. Jeff Gilmore, who leading the outside of that number 57 Irwin Tools machine. Meanwhile, Rapp and Slagle going to remain out in front, nose to tail. Expect to see a good chunk of drivers down on that inside, hop down to pit road, or at least the first few starting to open up that gap. And towards the back, Noah Swafford making his trip to the lane. And just as we feared, he is the only one to come down on 16.
Yeah, Noah Swafford is not going to like that at all, and since we already have a guy lapped down, it's not like the lucky dog can even save him at this point, so he's going to really struggle for a bit to try and keep pace with the rest of the field. Let's hope that they come down right here, and then that can minimize the amount of time that he's out there by himself as they cycle through pit stalls. But yeah, he's going to have a hard time for sure, and now we get to see some of that 3 wide as we're on lap 17.
3 wide is now fair game. Selena Thompson, Scott Rankin opening up the top lane. The 33 of Jordan Jung thought about going up to the outside, didn't commit to it though. One truck does scrape the outside wall, and here comes Jim Duda and more. This is a big chunk of trucks making their way down into the pits. Witt, Lane, Holiday, Allen, Bawalda, all in the pit road, critically into pit road clean. Last time we saw this field out at Talladega last season, there was not a single time where they came down for green flag pit stops where there wasn't some truck facing the wrong way.
Yeah, that was a beautiful stop by those guys. You didn't see any brake lockups or tire smoke coming from them either, so they all nailed that very well. And the faster that they can get in and out and the closer they can stay together, the better off they're going to be. So hopefully those guys have that opportunity to have nice, clean, quick pit stops, and they can get out and make a nice little train to help them get an advantage on the rest of their competitors when they cycle through their pit stops as well.
And here comes the next bunch. Jordan Jung, Jeff Gilmore more. Look at Gonzalez trying to make up some positions all the way down into pit road despite being those laps down. No problem so far. Gilmore will remain out in front. So we'll pull up the track map up on the top right of your screen there. There you see Paul Witt, Brad Slagle, and we're tracking Jeff Gilmore, who is currently down and into pit road. So that is right now the big cluster, all the different battle clusters you got on the racetrack. Selena Thompson now leads the way for the outside line on that secondary pack on the back straightaway. Paul Witt, who we believe will cycle out to be the net race leader, currently off of 4.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this all pans out as we cycle through, but it's really going to break up this pack, and we'll have to see who did well to stick together and then come out back onto the track cleanly and get a nice little draft going, because the faster you can get that momentum back, the better off you're going to be at the end of this race. As we still have a couple more guys that decided to stick out there on the track. We'll have to see if they have enough fuel to make it another lap. I guess they would, or else they're going to be in trouble.
As the as the leading pack comes down into pit road, Jeff Gilmore will actually manage to get out in front of Paul Witt. Here comes Paul Witt, Jim Duda, and Thomas Lane Jr. They're already linked up, nose to tail, ripping the outside line, trying to blitz around Gilmore. But Gilmore for now stands as the net race leader as the pack works itself down and towards turn numbers 3 and 4. Witt to the outside, he'll pull even with Gilmore. Meanwhile, Bailey, Thompson, and Moore all making their way back out onto the racetrack. Question is now for Greg, Batesall, Campbell, and Ballou. Will it be down to the pit road this time? Looking like the answer is yes. And Carson Batesall lunging for the inside of the 27. And how about that? Clean into pit road. For the most part, it is fuel only from the pack. Brad Slagle, I think, took 2. Mick Roberts looks like he took 2. Same with Brandon Gruber and Anthony Lane. Everyone else, fuel only.
Yeah, the 27, when he was coming flying in, it made my muscles tense up just watching him. I was afraid he wasn't going to get down to speed, so good job by him to be able to get those tires woed up enough to be able to get in there without an incident, because if he would have had that mistake, it would have been race over for him for sure. So great job by him to be able to get down to speed and get in there and get that stop done quickly. But now we're kind of seeing what it's going to look like, how the field's going to shape up post green flag pit stops.
Julian Ballou taking tires, and that has shot him in the foot because he's going to come out of pit road all by himself. Mike Campbell having a close moment, getting back up onto the racetrack down in 18th. Oh, Carson Batesall just makes his way onto the racetrack. Brendan Gregg down to the inside as well, and boy, this is tight between the rest of the drivers getting back up to speed. Zane Bailey, your new leader at Talladega.
Yeah, great job by Bailey. He must have had a good stop, and he picked the right group to come down with, because now he's sitting in first place. And Selena Thompson also as well has gained 7 off of that as well. So great job by those guys to be able to come down, get those right pit stops and nail those stops to be able to come back out and now get to enjoy seeing this race from the front of the pack.
Fastest lap of the race last time by, set by Ryan McRoberts at 50.44. So the driver to number 23 is absolutely on a tear right now. Paul Witt making the 3-wide look to the outside, trying to get back to the point. He's 3-wide with Duda. Whoa! Bailey bobbles with a bad bump from Thompson. Duda pitches in the 429 before bailing on Jordan Jung in the middle groove. Right now, Lane's still helping Witt out on the top, and Jung's got Greg to work with him. So 3 lanes opened up, and all of that carnage will cause Paul Witt to drop back big time.
Yeah, Jordan Jung decided to pick the right time to go to the outside and make it go 3 wide, because now he's up 17 positions from where he started. So he's playing the chess game right now, which has gotten him to the lead at this point, and we're probably going to see a little more 2-wide action. It's going to be tough to get that 3rd lane going, just because you really need a huge group of guys to go with you in order to make that 3rd lane work. So it'll probably take a mistake from somebody in the 2nd line in order to create that 3rd line. Otherwise, they're probably just going to settle in here and try and get another green flag run in.
Jim Duda takes over the race lead from Zane Bailey. Jordan Jung now leads the way up on the outside, and we're doubling it out for the next little while. First round of pit stops is complete. Right now, this is the biggest pack on the track, 1st to 17th. And then 18th on back is John Buwalda Jr. back with Holiday, Amaro, and Allen. They've got Mike Campbell just kind of tagging on to the back end. And Campbell slowly dragging himself back up to this pack up the road. Then another 3-car train with Anthony Lane, Noah Swafford, and Brandon Gruber. These are drivers that took tires under the pit stops or just had a bad stop altogether. And then a lonely Julian Ballou all by himself and now at risk of going a lap down. Luigi Gonzalez, the only truck right now that is a lap down and hoping for a caution soon, finds himself in the midst of this leading pack of 17 trucks strong.
Yeah, Luigi starting from the pits gave him a really bad advantage at the gate, so caution flag is going to be what saves him for tonight. But you may as well stick it out there, because I guarantee there will probably be at least 1 caution tonight. There usually is on a draft track, and that'll give him the opportunity to catch back up. But knock on wood that we actually keep it green for most of this race.
Well, I mean, that's the big thing, right? At Talladega, there's a very common saying that it's not a matter of if the big one's going to happen, it's a matter of when. And that is especially true in Truck Series racing.
That's what makes these trucks so fun to watch, and I think that these guys are doing a great job so far in keeping it clean, but getting a rear end upset by bumping somebody that they probably shouldn't have, or you know, having a little collision in a turn, or even just scraping the apron and losing some of that momentum. The guy behind you wasn't ready for it. will cause that caution. And I think another thing that we alluded to at the beginning of the race was also physical and mental fatigue that comes from draft pack racing on a Talladega.
Kind of taking a look at some of the upcoming presentations on GreenFlagTV. Later on tonight, the Old Messerel Truck Series will have their championship finale all the way down at the Nashville Superspeedway. Spencer Ray's already got that championship effectively locked up. He's just got to make the start, and he'll be good to go. The Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course making another return to the Beer League. They'll be racing there in the Toyota GR86s on Wednesday night, tomorrow night at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, on Thursday night, the Speed Tires Plus Cup Series will get set to swing out. They've only got a couple of races left, I think, in the regular series season here before they'll reset for the chase with the Tires Plus Cup. And, in fact, they only have one race left. That is, of course, at the Darlington Raceway. So it's all going to kick off. Top 7 points will be reset after Thursday night. And then, of course, TNGG has got itself with some pretty entertaining races that are coming on up over the next little while or so, as we look forward to see where things are going to line on up. It's also Darlington for the trucks, and well, Josh, it's Martinsville. So 2 very difficult tracks coming on up, and if you feel like you've been done wrong at Talladega, what better place for retribution than the paperclip?
Yeah, exactly. I think Darlington and Martinsville are both just really tough tracks, and they're very different dynamically from what these guys are used to seeing so far this season. So this track is a nice little calm before the storm for them, because Talladega is kind of one of those easier, or I wouldn't say easier, tracks to race on. I don't really think there's truly an easy track that you can sleep on, but definitely a track where you don't have to have so much technical skill as well as strategy. So I think these guys are just going to settle in for a great race here before they have to really wrestle these trucks around Darlington and Martinsville.
This race is definitely the longest race in terms of mileage at 200 and, well, it says 250, but it's really 260 miles in length. The next closest race is 232 miles, which was a 93 lap. Slagle nearly finding the outside wall. I think Martinsville might be the longest race based off of time, though, with 250 laps around the bumper-to-bumper 250 for the paperclip. If we know how frequent cautions can come out, that is a track where oh my goodness, a huge checkup in the bag for Rincon and Moore.
Yeah, I saw a big wiggle by Rincon, so he must have gotten tapped in the rear there, and he's kind of losing that momentum, so he'll file to the back of the pack there. And I almost saw another one up there earlier. I think you called it out just a minute, when one of the guys went to try to go up into that third lane and went just a little bit too high, nearly caught the wall. So I think these guys are getting a little feisty now. They think that they're trying to decide if they want to get themselves maybe in a top 10 or top 5 position to be able to carry on the rest of this race.
And Julian Ballou has finally been caught by the leaders. He is about to lose a lap, so that number 51 Toyota Tundra is going to find himself down and out in a pretty big way. Unfortunate for him, as Brad Slagle up at the front now leads the way for the outside. Jim Dude on the inside line looks like they're starting to lose some of that momentum. Maybe got a bit discombobulated from catching that lap traffic.
I can see that being an issue, and Blue, I think, also got handed a really lucky card there. There wasn't a huge second line for him to get stuck behind, so he was able to file in. And when you can file in so quickly into that second line, as you begin to build that momentum back up, you still have that chance to keep up with the main pack. So only going to 1 lap down here. He will have an opportunity, a lucky dog at some point if we get a caution here, but so far they're keeping it green, so he'll just have to settle in and wait for a bit. But we'll have to see with these guys. They keep bouncing 3 wide here, and we might have a caution before too long.
There's less than 10 laps away before we get to our second pit stop window as well, which is still shy of that halfway mark. And tires, you have to wonder when they're going to come into play as well. At a super speedway, right, tires mean nothing in terms of overall pace. Obviously, you're faster on fresh tires at tracks at the bottom of the hash, the short tracks, not at Talladega. It's all about horsepower. all tires do at a track like Talladega or Daytona is judge how well you can control that truck when you're coming off of the banking and onto the flat. So you have to wonder, could we see some drivers going to triple stint these tires?
That would be an interesting call as long as we keep it green flag stop. I don't see stops. I don't see a reason why you would want to change those tires. But as you said, as we get the fatigue setting in and those tires get a little more worn, then it opens that margin of error for mistakes. So if you want to be that guy, or if you're not really super comfortable with how you're feeling out on the track, maybe I would go for a set of tires just to make sure that you can keep up with your competitors, because you do not want to be that guy that causes the caution.
You certainly do not, especially if it's with your own teammate. But it's all up in the air, right? There's still a lot of unknowns in this race that we have yet to decide. And you're noticing not a lot of three-wide action either right now. I mean, nobody's been very eager to make that third lane work. I think that's really a sign that all of these drivers, they're being extremely conservative right now. They're looking to just make sure that they're actually going to be there to go three wide at the very end of this race. I mean, what's the point of putting yourself three wide to make a huge Hail Mary around the top when you're probably going to lose the lead in about 5 laps anyway?
Yeah, that's true. And the other problem is too is if you go to that third lane, you need a group to go with you. So really the only best chance you have, you can very rarely just go and create a third lane this early on in the race. What it's going to be is a couple of guys in that outside line that have a mistake, which causes the guys behind them to check up, and they have to pop out to prevent an incident, and then take advantage of that, them popping out with that momentum gain, and probably, let's say, the first 2 or 3 cars that were making that mistake, watch them get sucked back as that second or that third line goes and replaces those guys. But when you got guys running line to stern like this and they're doing a good job at keeping it tight, it's really hard to get a third line formed.
Paul Witt going to retake the race lead with Thomas Lane Jr., and it looked like Lane there wanted to go down to the inside with Witt, but Slade was able to drive up just enough that Lane couldn't get the move, and by that point, Witt had already committed to merging down with the inside, so Lane was forced to stay up on the high side. So the driver of the 429 machine going to look to try and make some lunges as well as he gets it in down and around that outside groove. Brad Slagle, Ryan McRoberts, and more all line of stern as we work it down in towards turn numbers 3 and 4.
That second line kind of spread out a little bit. It kind of went pretty single file there, but they were able to keep that momentum up towards the front, which allowed them to be able to reform that back up. I like to tell people that drafting is like voting. You want to have the best car up front to lead that pack, because the drivers are going to vote with their truck, right? If they think that outside line is going to be faster, they're going to put their trucks on the outside line, and then you're going to have that bigger momentum swing with having more cars in your draft pack. So these guys doing a good job getting down pit lane. But when you start to see it single file out, that means that that bottom line has more of the vote for the confidence of the drivers in front of them.
I'm not gonna lie, when you brought up voting, you started to make me sweat a little bit there. I was about to get really concerned really quickly about where that conversation was going, but I think that's a good analogy that you kind of put forward there. It's true, right? I mean, you do have to really make sure that you're confident in who's being pusher and who's the pusher and who's being pushed. We got a few drivers coming down the pit road: Jim Duda, Paul Witt, Thomas Lane Jr. in the pit road. We also saw on that lap Holiday along with Bawalda coming down the pit road as well from that second train. Whoa boy, 3 wide, Jung in the middle, Van Leer up top, and Zachary Gruver down low, nearly crashed into turn 2.
Ooh, man, there must have been some sort of mistake that caused those guys to check up and get up under that third line, or they're just not confident.
Well, the leaders were the ones that pitted, that's why.
Oh yeah, I must have missed that then, as I was trying to run through the leaderboard as seeing how things are getting shook up while the pit stops are going on. But yeah, this is what we're talking about though. Voting is, if you're not confident, you're going to get a vote of no confidence from the drivers behind you, because they're going to leave your line.
But And we're going to keep on keeping on at 3, almost 4. Jordan Jung all over the shot. These guys are not confident in pushing each other. And I think it's worth noting, right, for the most part, these drivers, they've just been driving half throttle. They've been letting in the clutch. They've just been running in this field and taking it nice and casually. They have not been the drivers that have been doing all the pushing up at the front. That's all the drivers that just came down the pit road a couple laps ago.
Yeah, these guys are not confident in that outside line, and you can tell because the momentum is very slowly fading, or very quickly fading away for those guys, and they're losing a lot of positions on that outside line as we got more guys dipping down onto the pit lane here. So, you know, some of those guys on the outside too, they have to be getting prepared to come down pit lane as we got some guys locking up. Hopefully no speeding penalties for them, but they're going to have to come down soon or they're going to run out of fuel. So you really have to position yourself to get to that inside line.
60 laps will remain this time by at the stripe. No penalties that I've seen as of yet. We're single file, so that tells me we're pretty much going to see every one of these trucks coming down to pit road this time by. Fuel only again looking like for pretty much everybody in this field. I'm not seeing anybody really standing long enough to take tires. Brandon Gruber did take a set of 4, so did Noah Swafford. Everybody else, though, taking either fuel only or 2 only, which would be right sides, of course. So it's a bit unclear right now as to what the strategy is going to be long term. Here comes Zane Bailey, and how about that? A few trucks still opted to stay out, but Gilmore, Rapp, Rincon, Bailey, oh, Van Leer side slaps the wall as he made it down, and then the pit road is in. Coleman's-Berger gets down to there as well.
That one's going to be a tough one to swallow because you cannot make mistakes like that on green flag pit stops at a place like Talladega. It's just going to cost you way too much time. Let's hope there isn't too much damage, but I got to imagine his steering's going to feel a little off with that left front toe probably getting kicked in from smacking the wall as hard as he did.
Carson Batel and Scott Rankin, the Wanta Goons and Clutch 1 teammates leading the way up at the head of this field as they look to push each other down towards the back straightaway through 3 and 4 and back to the front. And the last 5 on the racetrack going to be the next ones down and into pit road. Trying to lock it down. Batel and hard, and he's going to loop the back end. Spins it around. That'll be a speeding penalty for the 59. And his day will come to an end if he can't get a caution quickly.
Oh no, that's kind of what we've been talking about all race, is you cannot afford to make these mistakes because it's going to just cost you way too much time, and you're almost guaranteed a lap down if you get stuck out there by yourself. So that's going to be a very costly mistake for him, unfortunately. And then you have now we've seen 2 mistakes from this second pit cycle. So it's kind of telling me that fatigue is setting in a little bit for these guys.
Good job on drivers like Scott Rankin, though, to recognize that, check up a little bit more. That is not just compromise his own pit stop, but it's compromised the stops for everybody else as well, because they had to jam on the brakes extra hard getting down and into the road because they didn't know where they were going to be. So all of a sudden, they go from being at the front of this pack, and now look, Juno's already passed, but they haven't even exited turn 2 yet. They're going to be down by a long way because of that error.
Yeah, that's going to break up this field quite a bit, and you're probably going to see a lot smaller packs like this where these guys are, only 4 or 5 car packs at this point. But what you got to do in that situation is go single file and go line to stern and get that pack as tight as possible, because the more cars you have in your line, the faster you're able to go. So the best bet for these guys is to just go single file and try and catch up with the leaders.
Turning lap number 41, 2 distinct packs have formed up. You've got first through 4th, Luigi Gonzalez in the mix of this as well. Then it got 5th on back to about 11th. Pack of 6 that's got itself tucked up line astern. And then, of course, Jim Coleman's-Berger sits with Groove, McRoberts, and Slagle. As, in fact, Coleman's-Berger dropped off the lead of that leading pack, so they're trying to get themselves with a line formed up. Further behind, another trio with Holiday, Bawalda, and Allen. And then further down, Gruber, Swafford, Lane, all in the line as well. Mike Campbell by himself. Mike Allen tagged onto the rear end of this battle. And Amaro all by himself as well. So looking like, for the most part, the battles have managed to kind of ease up, but Scott Rankin could very much close in on top of the Junior Moore, courtesy of Carson Batel a lap down, who's right now serving as a bridge.
We'll have to see as these laps continue to tick away how their game plan is going to pay off for them. Nice thing is when you get these nice long lines like this and you catch those smaller lines, you can actually get enough momentum that you can actually gain 4 or 5 cars before their momentum finally keeps pace with yours. So we'll have to see how these guys can stack up as they catch this smaller pack in front of them. But once again, I think I'd like to point out Jordan Jung is 17 positions up from where he started, and that's just a great testament of his ability to strategize his way to the front of the field to get himself in 3rd place after starting in 20th.
It's a long way to go, though. He can very much lose all of those 17 positions with 1 caution, and that's the big thing, right? I mean, you can go from 0 to 0 and vice versa in the span of just 1 lap. You can get a good run going. It is insane, the runs that you can have. But right now, you say it correctly, Jung is the furthest driver up. The only driver that's even come close to spots gained would be Thomas Lane Jr. and Jim Colbensperger, right now running 5th, and then, of course, 15th respectively. They're both +9 on the afternoon. Paul Witt side by side with Judah for the race lead. And take a look at drivers like Carson Batesall and Scott Rankin, folks that we thought were out of the game, but because these trucks have got tracks that you can actually work with here, they're now back up to give us an 11 truck leading pack with a few lap trucks in the mix.
Yeah, it's been fun to see these guys tonight being able to do these green flag pit stops and then bring all these trucks back together to continue to keep the pace and be able to have so many cars still fighting for the championship, nearing halfway point here in this race.
So racing action continues on in full force for the Talladega Superspeedway. We're going to take ourselves a quick step back. When we return, it's more action for the TNGG IEL Truck Series. Gonzalez and Jung get it all sorts of crossed out. Paul Witt leads the way from the top side. Jim Judah fighting them on the bottom at the biggest, baddest track on the circuit.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Still under green flag conditions for Talladega Superspeedway. What has been so far a caution-free race. 50 laps will remain this time by at the stripe. We are halfway home after this next lap. The GreenFlagTV 250 has been underway for some time. And I can tell you what, this has been one of the better Superspeedway races this league has had so far.
It's been great to watch so far, and watching the guys shift front to back to front, because you look and Paul Witt is back up and near the pole as he's sitting there on the bottom line, I believe, and but here up towards the front. So he's found his way back up towards the front, and then you got some guys like we mentioned earlier, Jordan Jung, who's up 17 positions. And so a lot of shake and baking going on this track tonight, and so far with the green flag stops, it's really helped throw some wrenches in the leaderboard.
You're taking a look at the secondary pack right now that your field is catching. They're going to go 3 wide. This is going to get hairy here. That's 20th on back that they've just caught. They go 4 wide to get around the driver of Brandon Groover, excuse me, in the 41 machine. And that was headed up by Luigi Gonzalez. It also had Carson Bates on, Mike Campbell, Lane, Ballou, and Amaro, all in one big train. Whoa, boy! And now, looking like the 82 truck may very well have caught the wall. Anthony Lane sliding down on the racetrack. He'll manage to recover the truck. We will not have a caution. We'll stay green. But Paul Witt, right now, back to the lead because of that mess. He jumps down in front of Duda.
Wow, what a sketchy moment that was there. Those guys decided to go 3 wide at the same time that they were catching the pack, and it created 4 wide. And then next thing you know, you got a guy in the wall, and whew, I thought a caution was coming there. I thought your commentator curse was going to kick in right in that moment, but we're still green here, and these guys seem to have gotten sorted out back into double file.
Double file indeed, as the 429 and the 59, the 2 main leaders so far. I think Paul Witt's led some of the most laps so far of anybody. Paul Witt is one of those drivers that we often see him kind of up in the top 10, not so much towards the top steps, except for super speedways. Paul Witt is a super speedway guru through and through. That's where most of his wins this season have come from, is from plate tracks like Daytona and Talladega. And you can tell this is where these are the tracks that he absolutely loves.
Yeah, it seems to be paying dividends for him too, as he now sits at the top of the season standings so far as we're talking. So great job by him, and he's got 1 win so far this season, but out of the 8 races, he's got 5 top 5s and 7 top 10s. So this guy knows how to be at the front of the field right when it counts the most. So great job by Paul to be in the front of the field. But I think one of the unspoken rules of plate tracks like Talladega is you don't want to be in position 1 at the end of the race, because that'll almost guarantee that you won't win it. So I think Paul Witt might have to find a way back just a little bit to set himself up for a prime finish here at Talladega.
Paul Witt has only finished outside of the top 10 once all season long, and there was an 11th place finish at the Nashville Superspeedway just 1 week ago. So that really, again, goes to show just how consistent he's been all season long. Very much like how Christopher Howell was back when Christopher Howell was running this series regularly back in season number 4. So Paul Witt, I think, is going to be one of the next big championship contenders in this championship. He has very much put himself as a driver that is not to be trifled with. He's only finished outside of the top 5 3 times. The only other times he's finished outside of the top 5, Watkins Glen and Daytona, 7th and 8th respectively. Other than that, 3rd places all around. He has really loved the 3rd step on the podium, finishing 3rd at Bristol, New Hampshire, Charlotte. His lone other win comes from Atlanta.
That's a great job by him too, because that just shows his versatility as a driver. You know, sometimes these guys get focused on, like, you know, cookie cutter ovals or super speedways, stuff like that. And if you have the ability to win or get on the podium in the it looks like they're getting ready to do another round of pit stops here, but it's only those 2 guys that decided to take the pit stop, so that might actually be a costly call for them. We'll have to see if that pays off in the long run, or if it's going to be a mistake because the rest of the guys decided to stay out here.
You have to wonder, right? I mean, if this is how versatile that truck is, where was this Paul Witt last season? And I really do think that shows he's been doing a lot of learning, a lot of growing over the offseason and through the Super Speedway Blitz, and now he's ready to party once again. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to pan out for him. Paul Witt and Jim Duda, the lone two trucks right now that are down and into pit road. Jordan Jung leading the way. A good chunk of drivers in this field are lapped down. Out of this really 20 truck pack, right now only 9 are on the lead lap. Zane Bailey getting set to come down to the pit road in just a little while, and here comes another bunch as a lot of trucks starting to make their way down and into the lane. Oh, and look out, Jung gets turned by Gonzalez, slides it out and saves it. I think he'll get a penalty, but he could have wrecked that truck. Good job on recovering that for the 33.
That was a wild entry into pit lane, and it was hard to tell if he was just coming in too hot and wasn't able to get his truck wound up enough to keep out from running into his competitor over there entering pit lane. But good job by him to be able to save that, because if he doesn't get a penalty, you better thank his lucky stars, because that would have been a race ender for sure.
Looking back to the rest of the field, Carson Batol, Dale Rapp, and Jeff Gilmore leading the way. Of course, remember, Batol is a lap down. So right now, Carson Batol very much sacrificing this race, allowing everybody else behind him to save a little bit of fuel, because he knows this is helping out his Wandagoon's teammate of Scott Rankin in that clutch one Ford F-150. So right now, this is a strategic call from Batol not to drop back. He's a lap down. He knows he needs a caution. Right now, he is on the lead lap. If he gets a yellow, he'll keep it, and you won't need a lucky dog.
I think that's a good strategy move. Probably the best one that he's got, best card he can play on his hand right now. But we'll have to see, because I think these guys are going to start running out of fuel here pretty soon if they don't get down there before too long. So we'll have to see if a yellow flag comes out that can play in his favor. Sometimes with these green flag stops, you get a guy that gets out on the track and creates chaos, or, you know, doesn't quite handle the inside of that apron very well. So it's a very good possibility that a caution could come from this.
Brad Slago, Ryan McRoberts, Jim Coleman'sberger, Zachary Gruber all coming down to pit road this last time by as well for service. And still seeing a lot of fuel only. Right now, what I think a lot of drivers are doing is they're alternating the tires, taking 2 right sides on one stop, 2 left sides on the next, trying to balance it out, because that way you still get a full tank of gas. You get the benefit of some fresh rubber, but you're not wasting an extra 3 or 4 seconds to change a full set.
I like that strategy call. These tires do not wear, as we talked about earlier, quite as much as they do on a normal track, so it's costly. It's more costly to spend that time trying to get 4 sets of tires. So good job by them to decide to rotate those tires out a little less frequently to be able to maximize their time out on the track and minimize their time in pit lane.
Dale Rapp, Jeff Gilmore, Mike Campbell, the next 3 to come down to pit road, leaving right now just 4 on the racetrack that are on the lead lap at least, that have not come down to this pit road. There's about 5, there are 6 total right now that have not come down to pit road. The entirety of the top 4, and then along with that, you've also got Julian Ballou and Carson Batol that are also in this pack that have not come down to pit road as well. Everybody else has made their 3rd pit stop of the night. So we're about to get set to see the final stops come out for this 3rd cycle, and then we'll reset for the 4th. It's looking though like the field more and more starting to split apart.
These green flag pit stops, I think, are just gonna cause more of the splitting of the packs, just with the different skills. And as we got another lockup coming into the pit lane.
Scott Rankin with a huge lunge to avoid that mess. That could have been absolutely disastrous for Scott Rankin. Good show for him. And oh no! Thompson gets into Bailey, gets into Greg, crashing pit road, and a few hits. And now Thompson is in a bad way. That could very well screw her race as well. She's going to be forced to back it up all the way to her pit stall. What a bad stop there for Thompson. That's going to be a race killer for her.
Most definitely, and that was the thing I was kind of alluding to during our first green flag cycle, that when you get a busy pit road like this, it can be tough to get to your pit stall. So trying to break it up the pack a little bit and deciding when to come in is really helpful, or also hurtful. But obviously she didn't have much of a choice to be able to decide to go down any other time. She kind of had to go in with these guys. So it's an unfortunate situation, but it's the nature of green flag pit stops, and pit stops in general when you have a crowded pit lane.
Rincon right now is the race leader, but look at how many lap trucks are in front of him. That is a lot of traffic right now that's doing a lot of fuel saving for him. The pack that's directly in front of him, headed up right now by the, scored as the 9, but 46 on the truck of Doc Holliday, John Walter Jr., LeBron Van Leer, Mike Allen, Luigi Gonzalez, Carson Bates, Julian Ballou, and Mike Campbell, all in the same battle cluster right now on the racetrack. So this is two pretty big points battles, right? You got one pack trying to stay on the lead lap, and in the other pack, that's your race leaders just trying to mind their own business.
This is one of my favorite things about green flag stops with these draft tracks is, you know, it just is a testament of how important those are, because now you got guys that, you know, really had almost just about even as the race as the leader, but with a bad stop like that, it's now, they're now facing going a lap down. And so it really stretches out this pack and the ability to keep it nice and tight throughout the race. So we're starting to see the effects of good stops versus bad stops here at Talladega.
And now a little bit of three-wide action as well, as Luigi Gonzalez going to get kind of caught in the middle. Scott Rankin trying to make it three-wide around the outside. Rincon running second right now is way down on the bottom. And Dale Rapp, he's going to go to the outside to try to help this field out. Rankin now chops down low. Here comes Mike Campbell, who's in the he's in the lap truck pack, trying to battle itself through. Again, this is the challenge. You have a lot of drivers that are all in their own little battles on the racetrack. I think the lead lap trucks are trying to fight their way to the front of this battle pack, but the other guys are trying to make sure that they can stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking just a little more than 30 laps to go, so this is the point, especially if you're a lap down driver, you really need to start making moves. So we're going to start seeing some drivers getting antsy here because they have a lot of gap to make up if they want to try and be in the battle for the lead come toward the end of this race. And with this three-wide action, I think we're going to start seeing some mistakes and maybe see a caution come out, and that's going to throw another wrench in things. So you want to be right now, you want to be in front of that race leader, because if the caution comes out, that's a free lucky dog for you. So you're going to really see guys get aggressive right here to try and stay on that lead lap or keep themselves at the top of one lap down to be able to get that lucky dog.
3x3 wide from the front straightaway and still on the back. And oh my goodness, I am getting really nervous watching this. I mean, if there's going to be a yellow flag, it's going to be in this battle pack. Right now, there's a lot of really aggressive racing going on, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, there's a lot of trucks right now that do not appear to have a whole lot of self-preservation in mind at the moment.
Yeah, they're throwing Hail Marys at this point to try and go, and you got a lap car up here that's going to also throw another wrench in this pack, and their ability to...
Down! Oh no! Dale Rapp turned by LeBron Van Leer onto the apron, and Rapp will save it. You saw him trying to make a look to the inside, trying to get in there, and Van Leer wasn't having it.
That was a wild save by him. I was expecting some snap over, or some over correction there, and him snap back onto the track and create the first big one for tonight. So good job by him to be able to keep that under him and be able to recover that drive. That'll cost him a little bit, but it won't cost him too terribly much because there was a pack right behind him ready to collect him back up.
Jumping back up to the leader, Scott Rankin now heading up the way, but he's got the 29 of Mike Allen leading the inside line with a lap truck. Good thing is Carson Bates, his own teammate, is pushing him, so he's got a little bit of a buffer zone. Back to Brendan Gregg, who runs to the number 2 spot. 35 laps to go from Talladega, and you ever see some of that lasting smoke from that big save that Dale Rapp had just a little while ago.
Still got a couple guys up there going 3 wide. They really want that opportunity to be in the best position they could be with 35 to go. So they're going to try and make that work as best as possible. But they're going to have to get 1 or 2 more guys up there if they really want to take advantage of that third line. And I just don't think that there's a ton of guys out there that are ready to take that challenge on quite yet. But they're getting quite ahead of steam as they're going down the front stretch here up on that third line. So maybe there is something up there that they have going on that's working out for them as somebody else decides to join up there on the third line.
This is all the late race jitters, right, that started to get to this pack. Everybody is in the mother of all dogfights for the top spot. And it's only a matter of time before it all comes crumbling apart. Right now, Rankin, Greg, Witt, Lane, and Jung all tucked out the line of stern. And this is right now the battle of the lead between the middle and the outside, well, the outside of the bottom lines. Paul Witt and Scott Rankin are for the lead. Carson Beto is not. He's trying to fight to get back onto the lead lap.
Yeah, it looks like that we're priming up for a big explosion here of cars as these guys are really trying to be aggressive here to be able to fight for the best position possible. And they're doing a great job at keeping it clean so far, but it just makes you nervous watching these guys go 3 wide through these turns and being able to, before we see somebody make just that slight little mistake with that fatigue kicking in, take out the rest of the pack. So hopefully they're able to figure this out soon enough and get back to double file racing.
Fingers crossed, right? But I mean, who knows? It's an intense drive right now that a lot of these folks are trying to go through, and sooner or later that shoe's got to drop. It might even drop on the final lap, but it's going to drop. There's no such thing as a crash-free Talladega race on iRacing.
Oh, definitely not. I know even in my experiences with it, I had a Talladega race that went green the entire lap, or the entire race, but the last lap, people just get so aggressive that they want to try and get that last one little spot. They're willing to send a Hail Mary, and it usually costs a bunch of people the race, but so far they're able to keep this green, so let's hope they do it. But here's going to be some problems coming out of this corner as these guys get checked up.
Bit of a checkup there. Paul Witt went to the inside and tried to cut off Scott Rankin. Wasn't able to get to the inside in time, though. So Rankin still pushed by the Sparko number 29 as into turn number 3. Right now, Dale Rapp trying to push Thomas Lane Jr. to open up that lane up on the top shelf. Paul Witt runs with the lead on that middle lane. Carson Bateman pushing him. Looking like a two-truck crusade. I think finally these guys are starting to realize, hey, we've still got a whole pit stint left in us yet, at least one. Is it really worth going 3 wide like this when there's still over 30 laps to go? Well, as I say that, Brandon Gregg jumps to the top side, so I'm going to throw that book out the window.
I think if I were a guy that's fighting to be a lap down or trying to stay on the lead lap, I would do my absolute best right now, because this is your best chance to be able to save yourself if there's a caution that comes out, because if you become a lap down and you don't get the lucky dog, it's going to be a tough battle with 31 to go to be able to make your way through to get yourself back on the lead lap and have the chances. Here we go, the big one's getting ready to happen here at Talladega.
Thomas Lane going around, Paul Witt going around, the field stacking up behind as the caution flag will fly for the first time tonight. And it happens with 31 to go. I'll tell you what, I mean, that, for all intents and purposes, was not that bad of a wreck. I think I only saw about 4 or 5 trucks actually spinning around. Scott Rankin picks up the race lead. So we'll work it out of turn number 1.
Honestly, I'm very surprised too. I thought I would be calling that as a big one because it was 3 wide so deep, but those guys found a way to navigate around it, and now they're able to save their race for another one. And even the guys that were collected in the incident didn't seem like that they had a ton of damage, so I think that we got away a little bit cleaner than expected through that incident.
So you see coming down in towards turn number 3 as we take a look at the replay, and I mean, Rapp just got into the back of lane, turned him right around. Batol got hooked from behind, and then Paul Witt and Lane almost saved it. They were all crashed down to the bottom. There you see Gonzalez turn to the 71 of Mike Campbell just to try to avoid that. Jim Duda caught a piece. Witt, though, the only driver to really go fully round to that mess.
Yeah, Paul Witt just a victim of this incident, but when you go 3 wide like this, it just gets hard to figure out where your truck's going to be on the placement, and you touch the guy wrong in the turn and it's going to cause an incident like that. And look at Paul Witt going through that spin cycle right there. But so far it seems like nobody had to take a toe to the pit, so I think everybody got away scot clean there.
See y'all flag out for the first time tonight. We're going to take ourselves a quick break, and we'll be back with the restart in a moment. Lights are out aboard the iRacing pace truck here as we get set to duke it out with 27 laps on the docket for the GreenFlagTV 250 from the Talladega Superspeedway. If you're just joining us, welcome to this tape-delayed broadcast of Saturday's race. My name is Ola Wempel alongside Josh Baird, bringing you all of the action. Jordan Jung, the leader, after after he's actually one of the ones that stayed out under that yellow flag, or may have come down. It's at this point a bit of a who's who as we get set to figure out how everything's going to line on up for the action later on in this race.
Yeah, Jordan Jung's kind of a guy I've been picking out tonight. The fact that this guy is 19 positions up since the beginning of the race is just a testament to his ability to have that patience, and also the strategy to be able to put himself up towards the lead now as we get a little further in this race. And another notable gainer tonight is Jeff Gilmore and Jim Kohlmansberger are up 11 and 14 or 11 and 15 positions respectively.
Green flag will be out this time by as we work into the Geico restart zone. Green flag is back in the air. We are back underway at the Talladega Superspeedway. And hop into it, Jordan Jung immediately to the top shelf.
I think he was trying to get a little bit of an aero block there, but I don't think it looks like the outside line appreciated that as they bounced around him, saying, "No way, dude, you're going to pull that. We're just going to go around you and watch you sink like a rock." And he was able to dive back in to preserve himself a little bit there. And so now we got the outside line with a little bit of momentum boost since Jung caused a little bit of chaos for that inside line, but it looks like they're gaining some of that momentum back as we go through turn number 3.
Trying to gain it all back as Rankin and Gray both work the top shelf. Rapp now trying to see if he can pull clear from the outside line as well. The rest of the field working itself down and in towards the front straightaway as this race starting to pick up in intensity for sure as Rankin takes the race lead away.
It looks like they're single filing out a little further forward, but a little further back. It looks like we're going to try and go 3 wide again. It seems like there's a truck up there that is not content with the position they were sitting in on the outside line. Nobody decided to bite with him, so he'll have to settle back in if he doesn't want to lose any more positions, and back to 2 wide we go. But there was a mistake by somebody on the inside line a little further back, which caused the 40 of Zachary Gruber to jump to the middle line there, which is going to throw off some of these guys' positions as he sends it 3 wide.
3 wide up to the top shelf will go Jim Kohlmansberger in that middle group, trying to see if he can make a run. He could not. Nobody went with him, so he's on back in the line. 2 wide on the outside line. There is Carson Baytall deeper into the field, just leaving pit road to have to come back out for service. Dale Rapp, meanwhile, charging around the long way. See if he can pick up the lead with Brad Slago from Rankin, but Rankin with all that speed that the inside can carry through the corners, going to make an easy run of it.
We're starting to see the two wide file back out, and these guys getting settled in a little bit more. It's going to be more of an inching game with 25 to go, but I expect to see within the next 10 laps or so some of these guys starting to throw some Hail Marys to try and get those last handful of positions, especially the guys that are a little further back right now that are maybe back at, a little more than 10 positions back and want to try and be closer to the top 5 with 20 to go.
We're very much into that final third of this race, working lap 74 as Dale Rapp and Scott Rankin both try to make some looks up the road. Noah Swafford working his way out of turn numbers 1 and 2 to the back straightaway. And here comes the pack getting set to thunder up onto. That's got to be a terrifying thing to see in your mirror when they're fanned out 3, almost 4 wide like that.
Yeah, these guys better settle back down into their 2 wide, because if you got a guy with that little bit of momentum on the outside and he gets swallowed up, there's going to be nowhere for these guys in this outside line to go other than lift off the throttle, and then you're going to get sent to the back, or you're going to squeeze it like that and cause a caution as we get the 60 up into the wall.
Van Leer going to spin it around down to the inside, and that is going... I think, yeah, that will force a yellow flag. Caution is out. The pace drive back out onto the racetrack And they'll have to slow up to let that pace truck through, but good thing at Talladega, that pace truck carries some speed of its own down to the apron and put down some tire treads and some rubber while it's at it. I always love seeing that. It's such a funny sight to see rubber being put down for the pace truck. But let's take a look back and find out what happened to Laban Van Leer there with Jim Koenigsberger coming off of turn number 4. So Laban Van Leer on the outside of Jim Koenigsberger with 3 wide, trying to get down into double file, and it looks like that's just 2 lines coming together. They drift up, get into the outside of Noah Swaviter, then he drifts down, gets into Zachary Groover, and that kicks that truck into the air. Oh, but Walda just barely escapes that down the inside. Groover goes down to slap the inside wall, and then Baloo as well with a tight escape as Bawalda came back up onto the racetrack.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was talking about here. You were 3 wide, and you really have to try and get back down 2 wide or slow up just a little bit, because you can't really make it 4 wide. That guy in the middle there was not expecting it to go 4 wide. There was just not enough room to squeeze it 4 wide with that top car on the outside of that track. So, unfortunate situation for these guys, but that's the kind of stuff that happens when you catch the slow cars coming a lap down. And the 41 deciding if he would want to take the pits or not, ended up stopping on the track here.
Good call, I think, to not go down, because remember, pit road is closed, so he made the choice to back up and get it back rolling, and did eventually decide to go down pit road. On board with John Bawalda Jr. in this near escape as he comes off of turn number 4, sees the wreck up top and just cranks that wheel hard to the left. He may have been doored by Groover, but makes it up for the commitment cone, but nearly wrecked Baloo in the process.
All right, we're on board with Baloo now, and we'll have to see his ability to avoid this incident. And we're going to have a guy coming up to his inside very quickly here as he goes to dodge the commitment cone. And that was a great job by him, because that would have been a huge penalty. And his ability to avoid that, but nearly get Baloo collected in that incident, it was a good job by Baloo to get up that field just a little bit and react to that very well.
So restarting then with 20 laps left on the docket, pretty much the entire field coming back down for another splash and go, but still not good to go to the end. I mean, these drivers were able to make it 19 laps on the fuel earlier on, and some drivers did stretch it to 20, but remember, with drivers like Dale Rapp, they were in the middle of a battle pack when they were doing that. This is right on the cusp of being able to make it. I think one more yellow flag, though, and they'll be able to make that and then some.
Yeah, I think the race engineers are going to be sweating a little bit, trying to figure out what's the best way to set up their driver with an optimal finish. I don't know if I could tell you which strategy I would pick, so I'm glad I'm not one of those guys. I think maybe going a little bit earlier, so that way you're not trying to battle to get back up to position with so few laps in the race would probably be the best call for these guys, but it probably depends on how the caution flags are going to fall too, right? So with the race engineers having to decide, do I sit out and wait for a caution, or do I get in early so that way I have plenty of time to fight back towards the lead, is going to be a real head scratcher for these guys, and we're going to have to find out which strategy pays off in the end.
Getting set to go back to Green Flag Racing, and we're hoping this is not going to be the beginning of a string. Into the Geico Restart Zone, green flag's out. We are back underway with Dale Rapp in the lead as they cross the start-finish line.
One of the key factors as the leader is to make sure you don't get too big of a jump because of the draft. When they go to catch you on that backstretch, it's going to be a lot of speed difference. So good job by Rapp to be able to get himself enough speed to keep him in front of that outside line, but slow enough that he didn't build a huge gap between them, as that outside line's got a lot of good momentum going down the backstretch.
He sure does. He's making some great steam down that back chute as we fire it back down towards turn numbers 3 and 4. Rankin is still up on the outside. Dale Rapp hanging around down in that low line. And Brad Slagle wiggling around. He thought about going up top, decided to keep it behind that 52 truck. And Jordan Jung getting a little nervy with that apron. Here comes Rankin and Greg with the run.
I won't be too surprised if we don't see some 3 wide start popping up here with 19 to go. You got some guys a little further back that are going to get desperate. And look at that, the number, let's see, 33 car. It looks like, nope, I'm sorry, the 852 deciding to go to the outside here. And he jumped from the inside of that second position. So the 052 of Slagle is now on the outside looking to take the lead away from Rapp.
Continuing to get a little bit closer with racing action here, as a lot of these drivers, I think, are still looking a little bit more unsteady as this race moves along. But boy, the action tonight has been absolutely phenomenal. And we're in the end game too. Either one more run of splash and go pit stops, which, can you imagine having to come down to pit with less than like 2 laps to go? I think I'd honestly just risk it and try to run out of fuel on the final lap, honestly, at that point.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's any lifting.
Whoa, look out! Coleman'sberger way to the inside and hard into the inside wall with Thomas Lane Jr. And more trouble. Gonzalez into the outside wall, spins around. Yellow flag is out again. 3rd caution now of the night. And I think Brad Slagle will take over as the race leader.
Those race engineers are taking a deep sigh of relief now, because now that the hand is forced, you have to take fuel here, because there's only 18 laps left and not a guarantee to get another caution. So we'll see a lot of guys come down here. Maybe see the only thing from here is they're going to be a 2-tire strategy, 4-tire strategy, or no tire strategy. I'm imagining with 18 to go and with how little these tires are wearing on this track, it's going to be a lot of fuel-only stops, but we'll have to see who takes what strategy here going into this this last, or 17 laps to go.
So this is on the back straightaway here. Robert Amaro behind Jim Coleman'sberger. Selena Thompson and Mike Allen just in front of this pairing. And, oh, there's a big stack up the road. And that's what's going to hook Amaro into Coleman'sberger. Cleans out lane, slides to the inside, and that is a big hit into the inside fence. Same for Thomas Lane Jr. And then, of course, there was that second crash further up the road that caught up Luigi Gonzalez.
Yeah, it looks like a big checkup here was leading to that issue. I didn't quite get to see what caused it, but that checkup with the 77 there of Amaral just getting sent into those guys not having the ability to slow up, and then gets hooked right there by the 29 and sent into the wall for both of them. And then as 77 dives back down of Amaral, he collects the 54 as well of Luigi, and Luigi's just having nowhere to go, so he gets sent back up to the outside wall, and that for sure is going to affect his ability to steer and possibly race over for Luigi.
At speed, this is for the whole incident from the air. And you see, it kind of started around Ryan McRoberts, and that's what stacked the big field up. And then you kind of see the big hit to the inside wall for a few, and then this is kind of where it fell apart for Gonzalez and more. And this second crash was actually brought out the caution flag, and my God, Blue with another near miss.
Yeah, Blue having an amazing dodge right here. This first little incident, he was pretty well scot-free through there. I'm sure he's like, oh, thank goodness, here we go. And then all of a sudden he's like, uh-oh, it's not over yet. And here it comes up and then down right across the nose. And whoa, 2 cars that he had to get through. And both of them, he did a really good job reacting to those scenarios. And that gave him quite a few free positions to be able to fight his way towards the end of this race.
Taking a look, and we're going to slow this down a good bit. Watch how close it was for Amaro to come down across the track. Cuts back to the outside, and then coming up on the bottom, same story. Another jam to the brakes, and tell you what, didn't touch a thing. That is great truck control right there. So back with about 14 laps to go when we take the green. Brad Slagle, the race leader after pit stops, opting for the outside lane for the restart. Again, another interesting strategy call, right? Why take the outside for the restart as opposed to the inside unless it's the link up with drivers that he's more comfortable with, like Brennan Gregg, his teammate?
Yeah, I think that's a good point of where have you felt the most comfortable so far tonight. And the other thing is too is if you're on the inside, you're literally stuck on the inside until that gap opens up on the outside. If you're on the outside line, you can also jump to a third line if you're willing to make that gamble. So an interesting call because not always do people choose to go to the outside lane, but we'll have to see if this pays off for him here.
Green flag on lap 85 with 14 laps left to run. Holy cow, is it ever going to be a wild ride as Brad Slagle will lead us into the Geico restart zone. And once again, the caution light extinguished. We are back to green. And Slagle will immediately jump out in front. And how about that? Immediately hops to the inside. And he's, oh no! Brennan Gregg spins down to the bottom. A big moment there for Gregg as he slides all the way to the inside, keeps it off the inside wall. But that's a day over. No caution. Walking to the top now is Slagle to keep Roberts out.
Yeah, that was not a good way to start that restart there. He really needed to have it as we go 4 wide down the back stretch and then 3 wide right behind them. So it's really beginning to bunch up from that mistake early on in the race. We'll have to see if these guys can make it through cleanly as there's a guy up in the wall now and through turn number 3.
We'll get another replay of that one when everything kind of settles down a little bit. That was a wild restart as the pack still 3 by 3 wide. And we're going to go 4 wide again towards the rear of the field. Boy, there is no chill to be known right now throughout the entirety of this field. Still that smoke remains as Slagle and Thompson now run 1 and 2.
This is where the drivers are going to begin to get antsy. You really start needing to make moves to get yourself in the top 5 at this point. So guys a little further back are going to start sending those Hail Marys. You're going to start seeing that third line create and see some of these guys try and make some of those moves. And so far it looks like they've settled back down out to 2 wide, but here I guarantee you in another lap or 2, if somebody makes even the slightest mistake, that third line is going to pop back up again.
Double file finally, and the pack going to continue itself on. Thompson now clears to the outside from Rincon as we work down the front straightaway and coming down in towards turn numbers 1 and 2. And now McRoberts looking like he wants to try to attack in the Vector Troops Tundra.
'23 getting a huge head of steam down that back stretch. We'll have to see if the 91, nope, it looks like the 23 is going to dive down now, which gives the 429 the front leader of that top pack. As it looked like he got down onto the apron there on that bottom line, which caused a little bit of a checkup. It caused a couple guys to get down towards the apron as well. So we'll have to see if this creates a little bit more chaos, as it looks like we're going to get some more 3 wide action coming down the front stretch.
3 wide as he worked down to the front straightaway to start this lap with 80 to go, and all around goes Bewalda, spins to the inside, and now we got more trouble up into turn number 3. Several trucks around, and caution is out. Man, we are racking them up. That's yellow flag number 4 now, and this will take us to under 10 to go.
I think people are just getting fatigued mixed with antsy to try and get themselves set up for a prime finish. So we're going to see some of the more mistakes coming out. And when you go 3 wide and you're tired, the margin for error just grows exponentially. So kind of what we were expecting to see from these guys, and we'll have to see how this wreck played out.
So we'll start with a replay of what happened on the initial restart here. Brennan Gregg going to get turned here by Jordan Jung, and I think he tried to clear down to the bottom with Brad Slagle, and he just was not as clear as he evidently thought he was. Did a great job to keep that off the inside wall, but then McRoberts got a big run going on Slagle. Slagle immediately blocked high, did not want to let that 23 in at all, and that put us 3, almost 4 wide for the lead, and then they ended up going 4 wide for second as Balloon made a huge charge around the outside of the 28, How this was not a crash is beyond me, as they went 4 wide, not multiple rows deep, but 4 wide and 3 wide multiple rows deep into turn number 3.
And here we go a little further up the track, just a half a lap later, when they try and go 3 wide here and share some real estate that appears to not have been there for him. The spotter did not call him clear. He came down, and the number 5 of Bualda just takes out the guy below him and causes a spin. Sends a 71 back up into the wall across the nose of a lot of other drivers back there, but doesn't seem to collect that many people as the 59 comes back out onto the track. Did not know that the 71 was there to create more contact, but I think everybody's race so far is safe from that incident.
Once again at speed as we work ourselves around to the front straightaway, and you're going to see Bualda just, kind of just, Jordan, I mean, the 29 came up a little bit, but not enough that it would have caused that, and it's a hard hit for a few drivers like Campbell. We have to hope that maybe that truck will be good to go to the end of this race. So it'll be 7 laps, 7 laps being the distance, and, well, Josh, I think this has got to be one of the most hotly anticipated restarts that we are waiting on. I mean, this, I think, is going to get wild. A 7-lap showdown to the end. These guys are good to go now on fuel. It's going to get a little bit crazy.
I agree with that. And the other thing is, too, at this point, they've had a handful of cautions under their belt. And you know what happens to drivers when they have too many cautions under the belt? They get even more antsy because they're like, I just want to get out there and race the competitors. I'm tired of going slow. I just want to go fast. And so I think we're going to see a ton more action tonight. And I think with these last handful of laps here, so I'm curious to see who's going to get this third line started and see how this race ends up.
So Luigi Gonzalez will be on the outside of Paul Witt. Now remember, Gonzalez was one of those drivers that found himself down and out. He was he had himself with just 2 laps. He found himself a lap down and got the lucky dog, got back onto the lead lap, and now fighting for a win. Could Gonzalez go for his first win of the season? The green flag is back in the air.
What insurmountable odds that Luigi was able to conquer today. He started from the pits, which put him a lap down really early on, and he was also involved in a later caution. So for him to be able to sit in second right now is just a testament of his endurance and the ability to overcome those obstacles, as he's got a nice little jump down in the back stretch, nice little momentum boost and head of steam. We'll have to see if he has enough room to clear the 429, which it looks like he doesn't. So the 429 is going to go take that position back inside. But it looks like a couple guys on the outside may be trying to form that third line going through 3 and 4.
Trying to see where all of this is going to pan on out. Coming to 6 laps to go at the line. And boy, what a race this is going to be as we go 3 wide, multiple rows deep. The 54 being pushed by Jim Kolmensberger. Goes up to the top, and Brent Slago 4 wide now as they work down to the turn numbers 1 and 2. Gilmore up and into the air. Caution flag will be out again as Slago slides all the way against the outside wall. They're still crashing the 29 hard into the wall. He'll take Rav with him. And I think that collected about half the field further in the back of the pack. We just didn't see most of it, as you also got the 29 of Mike Allen stuck against the inside fence. I think that'll push us to overtime. So you saw Gonzalez block way to the outside, slammed the wall, and then Jeff Gilmore got into Dale Rabb, I think in anticipation, kicked him up into the air. The 29 of Mike Allen got into that as well. There you see Brad Slago already driving along the outside wall with Gonzalez. Carson Batesall, I think, had his luck run out as he got into the 29. They pushed back up the track, and then that is the hard leg up and into the outside fence there for Mike Allen, as he then slid all the way down this racetrack and then came to a stop against the inside wall. Didn't hold the brakes. Gonzalez narrowly avoids another incident. As, man, there was a lot to unpack in that mess coming down with just a few laps to go.
Yeah, here we go. This is what I was talking about with guys getting antsy with a few laps to go, and after you run these pace laps, you begin to see stuff like this. These mistakes begin to happen, as it looked like Luigi went up to go block that third line or join him because they had some momentum and there just wasn't room there. And then he had the random 41 crash down there at the bottom as well. I think it's just some of that fatigue setting in. And look at all these cars that got collected in this incident. Oh, back up into the wall for the number 52. And the 29 getting sent around as well. So I think a couple of those guys are going to have some pretty severe damage on their hands from that incident.
So we are now into overtime. It'll be a 2-lap dash to the end. Paul Witt still hangs on to the lead. McRoberts up in second. We talked about it before, right? Paul Witt is in the one of the worst spots he can be in for a restart at a super speedway. It's a place you don't want to be, is in the lead on the final lap. Do you reckon he can take the win?
It's going to be a very difficult task for him. What I would do if I were him here is the strategy I tried in my last race and unfortunately didn't work well for me, but that's a separate story, is push that outer line up a little higher and see if that guy behind you will want to dip down and try and squeeze into that third line below you, and then put yourself kind of up a little higher, give him an opportunity to take the lead, and then you can prime yourself in a position to be able to get back up towards the front a little closer to the end of the race. But at this point, it's a pretty tough ask to have a guy that's leading that bottom line to be able to come away with the race win, just with how these trucks are able to have momentum on that outside line going down the straight, and with the start finish line being past the tri-oval and not right there in the center of the tri-oval like it is at Daytona.
2 laps to go. There's only one attempt at overtime in the TNGG IEL Truck Series. Whatever happens now will happen regardless. Green flag is back in the air. 2 laps to go in Alabama.
Alrighty, guys, fanning out to go 3 wide here. I think there was a little bit of a checkup a little further back as these guys are getting antsy to go green. So we'll have to see if these guys are able to pull this off. This is actually the perfect opportunity for Witt, is to stretch out like this single file. So that way there's no second line to contend with you, but you're going to have guys 3rd or 4th, 5th back that are going to jump out to create another outside line. But with 2 to go, he might have a chance because they might not get the momentum they need to be able to get up towards the front. But you might see the 11 here if he has a chance. Nope, he lost his opportunity to be able to jump out in front of him. So we're going to have to see this second line up here on the top side. They're going to have to work really well together to try and contend for this race win. But look at that. Here we go. A third line is forming up as those guys weren't content with being in 4th or 5th place. So now they're going to go to look to make the opportunity to try and contend for the race win going 3 wide.
Oh boy, McRoberts getting all sorts of sideways in turn number 2 as Zachary Gruber got into the back bumper with the 23. Oh, Witt trying to see if he can just hang on. 3 wide for second down the back straightaway. Kolmelsberger pushing Witt clear. Down on the inside line. They're crashing in the back. We got one truck spinning around. They're going to be able to keep it together. Meanwhile, Paul Witt pushed by the 11 down to the turn numbers 3 and 4. If there's going to be a Hail Mary, it's going to be here. Coming off of the final corner, crashing out of turn number 4. Thompson goes around. McRoberts around. Here comes Kolmelsberger. They're crashing big time into the air. A drag race. Kolmelsberger pulls out to the outside. Paul Witt trying to battle back to the inside line. Who's going to take it at the stripe? Paul Witt will steal the win back away. 3 thousandths of a second, the margin of victory at the stripe.
Holy cow, I did not think. It is a really tough ask for the guy on the bottom line to be able to pull that off, but the guys wrecking behind him really slowed up the rest of that pack to give him that opportunity. The 11 coming outside at almost the exact right time, just enough late that it was not his time to win it, but I'm sure he'll be glad to be second on the podium versus back there dragging his bumper down this track as a wrecked vehicle. So great job by Paul Witt to be able to pull that off, and Brad Slagle will be the guy finishing in 3rd, but I don't think that he had much left of his truck after getting collected with those guys in the rest of the pack.
Jim Kolmelsberger with his best finish on the season and the most spots gained to boot, plus 22 after he started way back in the 24th spot this afternoon. Meanwhile, Paul Witt, after a wild final lap, will take it down to the front straightaway, and the 4:29 will get set to burn it down on a very well-deserved win at the Talladega Superspeedway. If he's got the fuel to do it, at least, as looking like he will.
Yeah, Paul Witt had the absolute best outcome you could possibly have being in that position, so great job by him to be able to pull off and get another win. There's a reason why this guy sits at the top of the standings right now. It's because he knows where to be and when to be there. But Jim Holmansberger also finished 22 positions up tonight, so he also was in a great spot to finish well here at Talladega.
So coming to the line, this is the march to victory for the photo finish. Paul Witt dragging this one out as the field absolutely annihilated behind. Brad Slagle with the best seat in the house, as was Barney the Flagman, as to the stripe. This is how close it was for the margin of victory, as right about there, by a nose, Paul Witt gets it out there in front of Holmansberger. That is unreal.
Well, and we found out earlier this week with the Classic IndyCar Series, it's actually the helmet crossing the finish line and not the nose of the bumper. So it's crazy to think of how close these races are becoming in iRacing, that things like that make the difference. And it was such a fun ending to see the 11 come out. I think he was just a smidge too late, or a smidge too early coming out alongside there, because it ended up being just very poor timing. But 0.003 of a second, I don't think you could have timed that any better.
And then on the final lap, an absolutely monumental pileup in the final couple of corners as Selena Thompson getting into the side of Ryan McRoberts, and then it was just on from there. Thompson Jr. kicked up into the air, multiple hard hits as they crashed towards the line. So after the race, we have managed to catch up with Paul Witt. And Paul, you finally get the second win of the season, but my goodness, it did not come easy. You by far led the most laps tonight, but it almost fell apart. Only 3 fouls separated you and Jim at the line. Walk us through that green-white checker.
Yeah, it was, God, that was something else, Nolan. I mean, to get into an accident, have the fast repair and use the fast repair and get back out there and use my teammates to get back up there. Oh my God, it was almost heartbreaking, because I almost let all the most laps due to beat me by 1 lap. He led 24, I led 23, and with that last restart with Jim right behind me, I knew I was good. I trusted Jim. I've raced with him several times, so I knew he was gonna go out if he could clear me coming to the line. But I knew he'd stay behind me for a while, just to get that white flag and come around. Coming off of 4, I knew he was gonna go to the outside if he could. And when that wreck started happening behind us, it was just a matter of time before he went out there, and I just used a little bit of a side draft to get my momentum back from him to cross the line just barely in front of him.
So we look forward now, obviously, to the next race at Saturday. It is a whole different beast, a whole different challenge. 200 miles around South Carolina's Darlington Raceway. Will it be a three-peat for you when we go racing up at the Darlington Raceway?
I don't know if it's going to be a three-peat or not. I just know that Darlington, you have to race the racetrack. You cannot race other drivers. If someone's coming up on you, just let them go. Because it's that type of track where you're going to have to just run your race and don't worry about what anybody else is doing. And that's the hardest for me, because I'm so competitive. I want to be up front. I want to be leading laps, and I want to chase Aaron down and Scott down and whoever else is up there. I want to chase them down, but at that track, I can't do it. I just got to run my race and see where we lie, at the end of it. So it's a very tricky track. You got to run up against that wall, and I'm just not very comfortable running up against the wall. But I can pull off a top 5 out of there without a problem. You never know what might happen. somebody spin coming off a 2 or something, because you got that little dip, in the concrete, in the track there. And if you hit that just right, you're going to the inside wall.
Well, wish you the best of luck then when we go racing on Saturday at South Carolina. For now, congratulations on taking that second win in style over here at Talladega, and we'll see you on Saturday.
All right, thanks, Nolan. Appreciate it.
Paul Witt, your race winner from Talladega by just 0.03 of a second. So with all of that said and done, what a wild race it was indeed. Let's take a run to the official post-race results here this afternoon. Paul Witt, by just 0.03 of a second, takes it from Jim Coleman'sberger, taking his first podium of his TNGG career. Brad Slager will wrap it up in third with Jim Duda in fourth, Julian Ballou in fifth, Dale Rapp sixth, Luigi Gonzalez in seventh, George Rincon in eighth, Zane Bailey and Mike Campbell round out the top 10.
Jordan Jung in 11th, Noah Swafford in 12th with Scott Rankin in 13th. Selena Thompson ended up 14th with Brennan Gregg in 15th. Thomas Lane Jr. ended up in 16th with Ryan McRoberts 17th, Zachary Gruber 18th, and Doc Holliday 19th. Anthony Lane finished in the 20th position. 21st was Robert Amaral, Jeff Gilmore, Carson Badal, John Buwalda Jr., and Lieben Van Leer. Mike Allen and Brandon Gruber rounded out the last few spots in 27.
So that is it then. Racing action is officially at its close. And, well, it's going to be a big day when we go racing next week, isn't it, Josh? I mean, it's the Darlington Raceway, the Lady in Black, 147 laps, 200 miles around the track, too tough to tame. Do you reckon we'll be seeing a new driver potentially rising to the challenge, or will it be one of the series veterans?
That's what I love about Darlington, is the fact that it's such a unique layout that it kind of really tailors to a unique set of skills. So I think we might see a new race winner there, but my favorite thing about Darlington is, like I said, is the fact that it's so unique and it always seems to have some action-packed racing with it.
Well, we'll get set to see if we go racing next week then. Well, I guess this is coming Saturday, in fact, at the Darlington Raceway. Be sure to check out the OMSRO Truck Series for their season finale tonight at the National Superspeedway. From us here at Green Flag TV, my name is Little Rambo alongside Josh Baird. Thank you so much for joining us for the Green Flag 250 at the Talladega Superspeedway. We'll see you next week when we go racing up in South Carolina.